them at the right price.
Yeah.
So when you look at these players, you need to know where your best targets are. And then you understand going in where you are in the grand process. Quarterback and tight end have to be drafted so different than running backs. That's the one thing that better than zero as I've come up with this philosophy over the years. That's the biggest takeaway that I've had is you need to think different on how you're doing that.
Well, I
Running
think,
back, running back and wide receiver, you're really deciding between those two positions.
yes. And when I do my map, Dennis, I do the RBWR ratio.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
it's,
yes,
you need to know and where those gaps are. But
yes,
anyway, in this concept of max min and average compared to our predictions, and you look down, and like I said,
yes,
this trend line, but again, early on, it ever these three or four are pretty close, but pretty soon, look how deep some of these can go
yes,
on the wide. I mean, and look down here. Look at some of these. I mean, are these the really landmines that people are going to be mad at? It's. I'm curious about that, but I mean, I would. To me, these are. I'm not the value I would need to try to draft in this range would be it'd never
yes,
happen.
yeah, and
Look at DJ Moore, you were just talking about the
yes.
concern you have already. And now we see, based on our prediction, where he's fallen. That's pretty bad, Dennis. He's not the worst,
So
but he's down there.
yes, and what's interesting with this chart that you're showing is I use a min max, what has been the min max over the last 5 years for a
Hmm.
player.
Right.
And
I mean, you
that's
could
my
graph that as well.
correct. And so when I look at the min max, it sends up alarm bells if I take a player too early.
Right.
Like Drake London is a classic case where Drake London has been as low as 29 and only as high as 88. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he's being taken as the seventh guy off the board, which should be 100 on MVP. And he's never reached that in his career.
Yeah.
And so just using MVP, he would be below my chart. And it's refreshing to see that he's
It's
way
I love.
below, he's below your trend line as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, uh, and with him having that quarterback thing that you and I
Oh,
looked at, him and
yes.
Pitts
Yes.
with Penix and Cousins completely mirror opposites on their
Yes.
usage and performance.
And what
So
is Tua going to be? Yeah.
yeah. So who
What?
knows what we're getting
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
He's too sensitive to quarterbacks for whatever reason, or it was last year, very
Too sen
sensitive.
too
And I don't know how
sensitive.
you graph that,
Yeah.
Dennis, but
Yeah.
that's something that may be part of our model down the road is the
Yeah.
sensitivity. People say, oh,
Yes.
he's quarterback proof. Is that true? Is that just the last 3 weeks that you made that conclusion for his last
Right.
5 years?
Right.
Or have you really looked at 5 years of metrics and make a conclusion? I mean, you hear again, what is the definition of quarterback proof for a wide receiver? Is that
Yeah.
last week? Is that your definition? That's what worries me is again, this definition. We don't know what that means.
Right. Right. That's the scary part, really.
Yeah.
Is that you look at this stuff and you go, where are the landmines this year?
Well, I'm
I'm not
trying to
sure.
predict them, I'm trying to give us something to think about because this
One,
trend line
yeah,
allows us to at least say, okay, if I'm going below this, why? And put in your diary,
right.
why am I taking it below what I should? Why am I taking an underlay here?
Yes.
You know, that kind of thing. And once we get our final number, Dennis, what we'll do is we will take these that are below as a group and compare to the ones above as a group for each draft sector. And we'll look, how did they produce as far as fantasy points per game? And we'll
Hmm.
have two different groups we can compare statistically. You know, it may be early on that the public, regardless, you're pretty safe. Whereas maybe in here you're not so safe, and these really cost you, and maybe these some of these close line don't give you what you thought you were, and only
Hmm.
the extreme. So you could even break it into an extreme, near average, below average, maybe three groups to test. But when I talk about testing, that's what I want to do is to generate these consistency numbers with all our metrics and have then other things built in, like I'm doing the secret stuff for age, experience, which one matters, and all this other stuff. So I'm hoping that's how we're going to test, Dennis. In other words, I kind of know already how to test. It's just I got to get the data to test 2 or 3 years. And we'll have then do a NOVA, and it will just sweetly show us as a collective where our risks are. In other words, even though, Drake London is below, maybe because he's top 7 or 8, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's just a break even. Whereas, when you get into another sector of the draft, it really, like a DJ Moore, does that really cost you? In other words, how risky is being below? Yeah, this would say he's double, triple the risk or the uncertainty of Drake London, but maybe being early is even a little bit safer than we think. Maybe we're misjudging this, and I don't know that because I've never tested it. I know nobody has done that test, Dennis. Nobody has done these tests
Yeah,
at
and the
all.
no, no, and the crazy thing right now is if you look at this, if you compare quarterback ADP
Yeah.
right now and Trevor Lawrence, for instance, going pick 111
Well, that's a
overall,
bargain, isn't it? Yeah.
111. And if you look at what else am I picking at other positions?
Here's Lawrence right
I'm
there by our metrics.
I'm thinking, I'm either taking Rashad White, Jonah Coleman, Jordan Mason, Chris Rodriguez, JCM at quarterback. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's or at running back. That's pretty bad. At tight end, I'm also in a target zone because I'm basically looking at maybe Mark Andrews or
Right.
Juwan Johnson or
Right.
Brenton Strange. So that's actually Brenton Strange is about two rungs later on the ladder.
Right.
Wide receiver, I'm going Casey Concepcion, Jordan Addison, Josh Downs, and maybe Romeo Dobbs. Those don't look appealing to me. I would take Lawrence. If that's the choice, I'm taking Lawrence every time at that pick.
Right.
I don't see I don't understand why there isn't an earlier run on quarterbacks. Say, I just think after Burrow,
Mhm.
Daniels, Hurts, Caleb Williams, Dart, and Lawrence, and maybe even Herbert and Prescott
Right.
should be a lot closer than they are to that pick. I'm not sure I understand what the public is doing right now. And that doesn't mean that I think those target quarterbacks are going to be better than Joe Burrow. I just think the value is like the value difference between what you get at 78 at running back or wide receiver or even tight end versus what you get at those positions at 111. That's why I don't mind double tapping Dart, Lawrence, Dak, Mahomes in
Right.
that group
Right.
of those four, and then maybe even, and then later, obviously, much, much later, Jared Goff. So I've got that late bailout if I get sniped on the other three.
Right.
Then I can come back and maybe I come back 10 early on
Right.
Goff to make sure I get him because the value at the other position sucks anyway. And if I don't get him, maybe Shuck or Jones. I like this mentality of targeting quarterbacks, and Drake May is the earliest I would target a quarterback. That's pick 71.
Which is good.
And to put it in perspective, pick 71, I'm down to Jadarian Price, Jalen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson, and Rico Dowdle.
Yeah.
I might make that move at 71 for May if he's
Right.
still there.
Right.
And at tight end, we're comparative to Laporta and Gadsden. Like, I think Gadsden's a sucker hole pick at 80 because there's too many other tight ends that might end up still, like Njoku could land there.
Yeah.
And then 71 at wide receiver, when I have to consider picking Drake May, I've got Parker Washington, Brian Thomas, Makai Lennon,
And you
and Alec
could
Pierce.
use this to line up what is all available
Yes.
versus what our predictions are relative to the value. In other words, you could look across. I mean, your cheat sheet
Right.
should, that might hammer it that way.
Yes. Yeah. This is fascinating stuff, man. I'm very intrigued to see where this goes. The interesting thing is the guy who was forecast to go pretty high at like the first quarterback at 29, 29 came and went,
Yeah.
and he's still on the board. So we might see Josh Allen's ADP drop as time goes on. I mean, I'm on
Well,
pick.
that would get interesting, but right now
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting.
So we're on pick 33 and he's still available. So
That's starting to think about things.
yeah, so he all of a sudden goes from if he drops to 39, for instance,
Right.
now his negative is a positive. Like
Yes.
this is the way we're going to have to use this data
Right.
is understand, and we can put in like for whatever ADP that we're drafting for that league,
Right.
we can insert and understand where the break even point is and where the +5 point is for a player immediately.
Well, I like I said, I sent you, and you should be able to go in and flip the ADP
Yes,
to the current
I'll
on
do
that
that.
spreadsheet.
I'll do
So
that.
if you want to update that, that's great. Like I said, I'm
Yeah.
trying to circle back to the predicted
Yeah.
using our model expanding with all the other metrics, and I'm really keyed on age and experience. That dynamic of those two variables, I don't think is really understood, and
No.
that information is not baked into the ADP as much as I think it should be. So I think we have an opportunity there to at least have some clarity on our model a little bit. And I'm curious to see, like I said, we'll probably know more in about 3 years. We'll be like, man, we sure were stupid 3 years ago. So, but that's fine. I'm willing to do that. And my long-term goal, Dennis, just for making money, is I hope that the proof in say 2 or 3 years of testing to the point like, $35, I'm going to the next level in the FFPC. I
Yeah.
may move, some of my bankroll, maybe 10 of those at the what,
Yeah.
$75, I don't know,
Yep.
whatever it is, $75,
Yep.
and
I
just
think
kind
that's the
of
next one.
put
Yeah.
my feet in the water and see does my toes get chewed off or but I think I need a reason to move there.
Yes.
And I think having the model tested would be a good enough reason to investigate that next level. I'm hoping.
Yes. Yeah. No, that I understand what you're saying there, and
So
I
that's my
totally agree.
trajectory in the next, 3, 4, 5 years. As I don't want to be playing $35 anymore. I want to move up to the next level, in the
Nothing
not
wrong
the
with
yeah, I
nothing
want to
wrong with getting
be
greedy.
well, but I want it to be rational greed, Dennis,
Yes.
not
Correct.
irrational. I
No,
just
no,
I just
no.
hit a 20-to-1 shot at the track. Man, I'm betting everything now. I must be hot
Yeah.
today. And as
Yeah.
you know, horse racing will the gods slap you down if you get too greedy too quick.
Oh yeah.
They will take that bankroll and you're reaching in, you're asking the hot dog man for, a free hot dog, you'll pay him next week. I mean, come on, Dennis. And so it can get bad. I've seen people go tilt at the track. It gets crazy.
Oh God, yeah. It's funny you say that because people go obviously famously tilt in poker too.
Yeah.
So one of the guys I worked with at United was a professional shill at
Uh,
tables out in Vegas. They
yeah.
hired him to come out. They paid for his room and board, and
Right.
they had him sit in on tables as an extra player because people want full tables.
Right.
And he has, I mean, they literally put a sign in front of him, that he's a shill. And what he told me is that the best advice he ever got from a poker player when it came to these Texas Hold'em big tournaments,
Right.
if a guy got beat on what was a upset beat, on the river, he stepped away from the table or he folded the next two hands. He
Right.
was like, I am not playing for until my blood pressure settles back
Right.
down. And that is so true
Dennis,
in
that's where
horse
you go
racing.
get a little snack. Get your
It's
brain
snack time.
glucose going.
My
Physiological.
yeah.
There is some brain glucose. There's some physiology to all this, Dennis.
As a kid, I didn't mind when my dad's friend Charlie got like head bobbed out for a winner, because if he got frustrated, he'd always say, "Hey kid, you want to go for an ice cream?"
Yeah, and
You
then
know,
just take a break.
and whenever there were like cheap, like really cheap races or maiden races,
Yeah, he'd go get
it
an
was
ice
like,
cream.
let's go get an ice cream, kid.
Yeah,
It was his way of avoiding
avoiding.
betting a stupid situation.
Yeah, yeah. Let
Very
me
cool.
stop. That was some of our pre-show.